Hello, Elmhurst. I'm your City Clerk, Patty Spencer, and I'm here today with Tim from Republic Services, our contracted refuge and recycle provider. I have recycling items here, and Tim is going to help me go through them to see if I can or cannot recycle them. Tim, you want to get started?
Absolutely, Patty. Thank you very much. First of all, we've got in our curbside bins, we have fiber and paper, flattened corrugated cardboard, containers, magazines, newspaper, unwanted mail, envelopes. Windowed envelopes are acceptable. You don't have to cut out the window envelope. Newspaper is fine. We have metal containers, aluminum cans, pop cans. What we strongly suggest is that you rinse those cans or containers out, because if there's material left inside, it would get spilled onto the newspaper and then the newspaper is contaminated. Plastic containers, a number of plastic containers, Tide bottles, milk jugs, soda bottles, again, all rinsed out, caps on. If the caps are off and just loose in the bin, they're gonna get thrown in the trash as they go through the recycling line. Oil containers, with that contains motor oil, they would not be recyclable simply because you're not gonna get the oil clean out of that actual container. Glass bottles and jars, as long as there was food items or soda in them, that's fine. Well, again, lids on. A number of items cannot be recycled. Clothing, for example. There is a totally different program for clothing, but clothing is not in our recycling program. Light bulbs, batteries, smoke detectors. There are different ways to get rid of those items. Various drop-offs for the smoke detectors throughout the city. Please look at the city's website. Electronics, TVs, computers, phones. They can all be recycled, but not in the curbside program. Jugs like orange juice containers, again, rinse those out, put the caps on, they can be recycled. Plastic bags, drop them off at the grocery store. Don't put them in the curbside bin. They would just cause a lot of problems at our recycling center. And again, they are not recycled in the curbside program, but the grocery store goes through a large volume, they can do it. Yard waste containers or yard waste, right now leaves, grass clippings, trees, branches, that's in a whole different separate collection, yard waste collection. Banana peels at this point in time cannot be in that program. Though it's organic, just haven't rolled it out yet to residents of Elmhurst. Then you have wood, shingles, construction debris. There is a construction demolition recycling program, but it's not in the curbside program whatsoever. Copper piping, that type of thing. Carpeting, we'd certainly want to look at that being rolled up no more than 4-foot lengths, but tied up so it's easier for the driver to collect, no more than 50 pounds, and it would be picked up as trash. Paint cans have to be emptied and put in the trash container. Little trick, get some kitty litter, put it in the paint can, it'll dry out, and it won't cause a mess when we're compacting it in the truck. I think that's just about everything we've covered, Patty.
Well, thank you, Tim. So there you have it. For any questions, please contact the City Public Works Department, 630-530-3020, and Republic Services at 708-345-7050. 2 blue bins, 1 blue planet. Let's do our part, Elmhurst.
Good morning. Welcome to our service. This is a very special occasion. I'd like to get right into the program. Commander Scudder, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Bill. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, John. And now we will have the national anthem sung by the chorus of DuPage singers. Thank you for being here. Praise it! Huh!
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare on bursting air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Order! Huh! Thank you very much. Please be seated. Welcome to our Veterans Day ceremony. Each year these days are special. This one is especially special. 100 years ago, the 11th day, 11th hour of the 11th month, a war ended. You'll hear more about that from General Wendell in just a moment. My name is Bill Shanklin. I'm the Master of Ceremonies today. Our Officer of the Day is Russ Strahan. At this time, I would like to invite two students from Elmhurst College. They are members of Professor Mary Walsh's class, and they would like to say a few things to you about what they've learned about veterans, the greatest generation, and I think they got to meet several veterans as well. So would students Emily and Samantha please come forward? And Victor. Victor's in addition to the program, we're going to have a special, he has something special to tell us. So Emily, Samantha.
You have a place to post the coats.
Hello, my name is Samantha Leahy, and I'm beyond honored to be standing here in front of such courageous individuals today. I'm also very grateful that I am able to share and connect my stories of my grandpas who both were involved in the Army.
Good morning. My name is Emily Finkbeiner, and I am beyond honored to have this opportunity to thank all of the veterans here today. As some of you may know, Samantha, Victor, and I are freshmen at Elmhurst College, and we are speaking on behalf of our freshman year seminar, The Greatest Generation. Throughout this class, we have learned what it means to serve for our country, as well as what it means to be a true patriot. We have had the privilege into hearing real-life stories of veterans today. We learned about the falling of the Iron Curtain in Europe through the eyes of Commander John Scudder, the experience Bill Shanklin had from the Vietnam War, as well as coming home to a divided country. Lori Tompos gave us an insight on what it is like to be a woman serving in the military. We are also honored to hear Colonel Mark Mellon talk about what life is really like in Afghanistan. Finally, Jacob Hill expanded our knowledge on what it is like to serve our country in 2018. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the service that you have done for our country. Walk with pride every day, knowing that you made a difference in this country.
Since my class was able to listen to personal stories from a variety of heroes, it made me reflect on my own personal experience with my grandfathers being involved in the Army. One was sent to Germany for the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the other saw combat with World War II. My grandpa, who fought in World War II, was in Anzio, Italy. While carrying ammo, a shrapnel struck his leg, leading to amputation. As the strong man he was, he survived and received the Purple Heart for his courageous acts. My grandpa shared little to no stories about the war, keeping many of his memories to himself. But what he always shared was his patriotism for the country. Listening to the veterans in my class, I could see how proud they were to be able to show their patriotism as well. As I stand here today, I know my grandfather would be proud to see how I carry on his love for the country the way that he did. And I will continue to carry that love for the rest of my life. I want to thank all men and women who have served for this country from the bottom of my heart. Though you may view your service as just a civil duty, it means so much more. You have given each person right here freedom that very few countries have. We are all proud to be Americans because of your heroic acts. Thank you and happy Veterans Day.
My name is Victor Hernandez, and I would like to share with you guys that for the first time I voted as I became a U.S. citizen. That being said, I would like to thank all the veterans for protecting our democracy, as this wouldn't be possible without you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you for all that you do. It's great that the college has this class to teach these young people the meaning of service, sacrifice to the country, as well as to the community. You see some of our law enforcement folks and firefighters, they serve us well every day and every night. So we thank them as well. And thank you again for doing this. Appreciate it very much. This time I'd like to invite Brigadier General Wendell to remind us why we're here today and to give us the opening prayer.
Well, once again, it's an honor for me to be able to share in a service such as this. Just a few remarks that I want to make before I read just a very brief prepared remarks that I have made. My first time with the military was when I was 17 years of age. My brother, 4 years older than I, was in the Naval Reserve, and he said, "John, I think you ought to join the Naval Reserve." So I thought, why not? So I came in as a seaman recruit, and because it was a minority enlistment, I was out in 3 years as a seaman first class. There was a number of years of break before I became military again, and served for 20 years with the Air National Guard as a military chaplain. My brother and I both have served in the military, and on my wife's side, there have been many who have served. World War II, an uncle who landed at Tarawa, and on the second day on the island, lost his eyesight for the rest of his life. An uncle who received a Purple Heart while in Italy in World War II, and other members of the family who have served in other branches of service. But you know, as we think back, there are those who wanted to serve and could not serve. And I'm going to tell you just in a moment about one such person. He and I happened to be in the same, graduate from the same college, Wheaton College, a number of years back. He preceded me by 13 years at that school. His desire was to become an Army chaplain, but they said he was too skinny. He had to gain weight. And so I grew up in Hinsdale, and during that period of time, he lived just one block from where I lived. and he worked hard in order to get the needed weight so he could serve in World War II as a chaplain. However, we both happened to have the same medical doctors, Dr. Richard Mathias in Hinsdale. And Dr. Mathias told me this story. He said one day this young man came into his office dreadfully ill. He was hospitalized at the Hinsdale Hospital. He had mumps. He lost all the weight that he had gained in order to go to chaplain school for the Army. And as a result, he was now disqualified. However, he has served our country by becoming a counselor to presidents. We know him as the late evangelist Billy Graham. Let me share with you just a few thoughts that I have put together, because this is the 11th day of the 11th month. 100 years ago this day, there was a cessation of hostilities in Europe. And I want to speak for a moment about a family feud of royal proportions. Family feuds may result in relatives not talking to one another, and will likely go no further than that. However, national feuds may result in war. Rulers of three major combatants of World War I were blood relatives. King George V of England and Tsar Nicholas II of Russia on the one hand, and Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany on the other, were not simply related, they were first cousins. Kaiser Wilhelm stated that if their grandmother, Queen Victoria of Great Britain, had still been alive, she would never have allowed her grandchildren to go to war with each other. Instead, World War I proved once and for all that the family ties between the reigning houses of Europe became irrelevant. National feuding in Europe simply awaited the spark that would erupt into war, and this occurred on June 28, 1914, with the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand of Austria, heir apparent to the Austro-Hungarian throne. The principal belligerents of the Allied powers were Great Britain, France, Italy, Russia, Serbia, and the United States of America, who entered the war in 1917. The opposing forces were known as the Central Powers, consisting of Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Bulgaria, and eventually the Ottoman Empire that entered the war when they thought Germany would prevail. There were other nations that aligned with either the Allied powers or the Central Powers. The number of total deaths, military and civilian, of all nations affected by that war were in the multiple millions. The United States mobilized 4 million of its armed forces, of whom 117,000 made the ultimate sacrifice. There were those who thought the war would last for only 6 months. However, it dragged on for more than 4 years. When it became apparent to Germany that they had no hope of winning, Germany sought to end the war, and these negotiations dragged on for months. The armistice was finally set to go into effect at 11 a.m. Paris time on 11 November 1918, thereby referred to as the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 1918. Germany had formally surrendered, and all nations had agreed to stop hostilities while the terms of peace were negotiated. The Treaty of Versailles, the formal terms of peace, was signed on June 28, 1919, the 5th anniversary to the very day of the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand of Austria, which was a spark that ignited the flames of World War I. We are gathered here on the 11th day of the 11th month of the year 2018, exactly 100 years after the first day of the cessation of hostilities of World War I. It remains the desire of peace-loving peoples that wars will end and peace shall prevail. Let us, on this centennial observance of the end of World War I, recommit ourselves to be among those who pray for and seek peace. Let us resolve to resist hostility, and let us do so within our families, our sphere of influence, and our nation. So help us God.
Thank you very much, General Wendell. At this point in our program, we were supposed to have Brian Costello here from the Shannon Rovers play a piece for us. However, he couldn't make it. What?
Right behind you, Bill. Coming.
He's coming? Well, that's his brother, Sean. Shh.
Here he comes. We got him, Bill.
Just in time. Thank you, Sean. And now I would like to ask former Mayor Scott Levin to come and address the audience, please.
Thank you, and I welcome you to today's Veterans Day service. I'm honored to be here on behalf of the city of Elmhurst on a day when we commemorate the brave men and women that have served our country. Mayor Morley takes great pride in addressing veteran ceremonies such as Memorial Day and Veterans Day. He is out of town and mistakenly put in his calendar the legal holiday being tomorrow instead of today, so he could not be here. He asked me as his stunt double to appear, which I'm pleased to do, get a chance to wear my patriotic tie for 2 times in 1 year. And I do see the mayor sent the city manager to keep an eye on me, so that's fine. I do want to focus our attention today on the important purpose of Veterans Day. It's a celebration to honor Americans, veterans, for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. I'm of sufficient age to have some perspective on the history of armed conflicts in our country. My own father served in World War II. Most of my friends' fathers were World War II or Korean War veterans, and I was of the age to have been in the Vietnam draft, but was not called to serve. Historically, World War I was known as the Great War, and it was regarded at the time as the war to end all wars due to the tremendous destruction and loss of human life attendant to that war. In November 1918, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th in the commemoration of the first Armistice Day with the following words: "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in this country's service, and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy and peace and justice in the Council of Nations." Now, 100 years later, I believe that our lesson is that our military strength is what allows us to live in peace. Armistice Day was later renamed Veterans Day, a day to not only honor those who gave their lives in the service of our country, but all of those who served in our armed forces. I was reminded at our recent military ball at the American Legion that ours is an all-volunteer army at this point, unlike countries such as Israel, where there's conscription and all young people are required to serve 2 years, we have a sufficient group of dedicated persons who step forward to serve our country. I sometimes think that those who do not serve may not be aware of the sacrifices and the commitment by those who do serve, and there may be a loss of perspective in that regard. The service in World War II was somewhat different than in times since. That war was to protect our country after a direct attack. The wars since have been for purposes maybe less understood and sometimes less popular. Vietnam War veterans suffered the indignity of an ungrateful public upon their return, which was only recently rectified. Other conflicts, which are listed right around the corner from me, include in the 80s the Lebanese Civil War, the invasion of Grenada, the invasion of Panama. In the 90s, the Gulf War, the Bosnian War, the Somalian War. These wars put our soldiers in harm's way when we, as a global leader, were called upon to protect our allies. And for that, the whole world, the whole free world, I should say, has our armed forces to thank, in addition to the thanks from our own country. On September 11th, 2001, after we were attacked on our own soil again, we began the war in the Middle East, the war in Afghanistan, the Iraqi war, the U.S.-led invasion in Syria. These soldiers are fighting to protect us and our freedom. We must not forget those who serve us and protect us every day. First and foremost, we say thank you to those of you who have served our nation. Your sacrifices and your courage have shaped our country and protect the tremendous gift of freedom we have. Today, I'm honored to be here to thank our veterans. Let's continue to hold our veterans in high regard and show our appreciation for their service. I want to thank our Memorial Day Commission, and I want to thank all of you who are out here on a cold but beautiful morning when you could be home preparing for the Bears game. Thank you all for attending.
Okay, I'd like the singers to assemble. And now we will have a selection by the Chorus of DuPage Singers. Very good. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Sometimes things just tend to work out. The song they just sang kind of goes along with comment on the back of the program. I am an American. Please take time to read that. I read it just before we started today, and I'm going to keep this. I think it's very nice. Well, before we go any further, I would like everybody to stand and face the east. We're going to reflect on 100 years ago when a war ended. A moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Please be seated. And now we will place our wreaths. First, we will have the VFW and the VFW Auxiliary. The American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary. And now in honor of the U.S. Marine Corps, who celebrated, I think it's their 234th birthday yesterday. Actually, the Army is about, 15 days older? I didn't know that until a couple days ago. 243. God bless the Marine Corps. And now Scott Levin, representing the city of Elmhurst. Now I'd like to invite John Quigley to come forward for our special recognition.
Okay. Good morning. Beautiful day. Brisk Chicago weather. I usually give a little story, some history, some personal accountings before I read the names of those who have left us since we gathered on Memorial Day. But I've got a really good story to tell you today. It involves somebody who's sitting here with us, somebody who was involved in the creation of this memorial, and somebody who the Illinois Department of Veteran Affairs has chosen among only 200 veterans across the state of Illinois to be honored at the United Center on Monday, December 3rd. Would you congratulate our very own Ralph Pachanio? And now the names of those who have departed. Alan Keith Austin, Philip Barata, David Beckman, Fred Barrow, Robert Blair, Melvin Bruns, John Carew, Michael Catalanato, William Chittenden, Walter Christoph, Gary Cooper, James Cushing, Paul Zamansky Jr., William Donovan, Richard Dufort, Don Feely, John Field, Or Zhang Finley Jr., Michael Golding, Donald Gucci, Paul Haberstich, Juan Ignacio, Donald Johnson, John Keenely, James King, Frank Crone, Wayne Barry Marvinack, Donald McCarthy, Francis Envia Minas, Jacob Moulter, John Peake, Joseph Palola, Jerome Pizzotti, Salvatore Raimondi, William Richards, Thomas Russell, Joseph Salerno, Roger John Schulman, Harry Schwartz, Edwin Sprandl, Jimmy Volpe, Verlin Walter, James Wellwood, Leo Winuszki, John Wolfersheim, and past Legion Commander, last but certainly not least, Andrew Medema. As I ask every year, remember them in your hearts, remember them in your minds, but today, give them a rousing round of applause.
Rifle squad, fire 3-round volley.
Steps forward, move. Right, face. Red fire. Ready. Aim. Fire. Ready. Aim. Fire. Ready. Aim. Fire.
Reset.
Arm.
Order.
Arm. Right. Face.
And now another selection. Please be seated, by the way. Another selection with Sean Costello. Thank you, Sean. And now, General Wendell, if you would please provide us with the benediction.
It's not in every nation of the world where men and women are permitted to pray. We are blessed. And so, our Father in heaven, as we come to this conclusion of this memorial service, we thank you for the land in which we live, for the men and women who have gone before and served, and so many paid the ultimate sacrifice of laying down their lives in order that we might live with freedom. We pray for our men and women in military service at this moment, and for those who will follow in years to come, and to fill those ranks, to provide our peace and our security as a free nation. We thank you for this and all the blessings you give to us, which I pray in the name of Christ my Lord. Amen.
Before we retire the colors, I wanted to make a couple of comments. One is right after this ceremony at 12 o'clock, there's going to be a concert over at Hammersmith Chapel in honor of Veterans Day. They did it last year, and it was really a moving experience, and everybody's invited to attend. It's going to start at 12 o'clock. So if you can make it, I would appreciate seeing you there. The other thing that I wanted to say is, you see the white cross up here? The cross that we brought from the American Legion has seen better days. And so I went to get a cross that we normally use on Memorial Day for all of the deceased and past members of our community. I reached into the bin and I pulled this one out. I flipped it around and I saw the name that you can't see. It's facing me. It's kind of interesting because that person is responsible for me being here today. He told me that I was going to be doing this. Bill Ralston. I'm sure a lot of you in the audience remembers Bill and all the good work that he did in our community. And I appreciate him told me to do this. It's an honor to do this program every year. All right, let's retire the colors. Please stand. That concludes our program. Thank you again for being here, and hope to see you over at the college at noon. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, hey, hey. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land, love this land. God bless the USA.
Have you checked out Elmhurst Public Library lately? Prepare to be amazed. The new Makery, located in the library's renovated basement, provides a hands-on creative space for patrons to invent, collaborate, and design. as they transform their ideas into reality. From laser cutters to embroidery machines, the Makery has something sure to pique everyone's interest. This open, flexible work area creates an environment to create, connect, and explore. EPL cardholders, District 205 teachers and students, Elmhurst College students, work perks, and business cardholders are welcome to use the space. For more information, go to elmlib.org/makery. Let's make things happen.